Hey folks, Larson Halleck here. Are you a fan of Larson Halleck and the Barbaric Gentleman? Of course you are, otherwise you wouldn't be watching. Would you like to help the channel grow? Would you like to help me out? If so, here's how you can. You can go to patreon.com/Larson Halleck and join the ranks of these illustrious heroes. You can also go to www.paypal.me/Larson Halleck to also donate some money. You can also buy my book. The Patreon, the PayPal, and the link to my book are all found in the video description. You can also follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. I no longer advertise my Gab because Gab sucks. And if you support me enough, I'm going to make Larson Halleck, the motion picture, in which you will get to enjoy a riveting 4 hours of me and my friends playing grab ass in a public park. All I need is $90,000 to do it. And now, our scheduled programming. Hello. Larson Halleck here, and welcome back to Kung Fail, looking at another MMA fraud. As I've said before, MMA frauds are not as esoteric as the traditional martial arts fraud, most of whom were probably at the Black Dragon Fighting Society gathering held in Virginia this past week. But they are so entertaining, aren't they? Today's fraud isn't quite as much of an embarrassment as Scotty Blevins. In fact, today's guy has actually won a fight on record. Kind of. More on that later. And he's on the complete opposite end of the weight spectrum, but they share a proclivity for bad martial arts skills, brazen lies about their history, and just looking like complete crap. Mark Bailey of Lawrenceville, Georgia. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Mark Bailey of Lawrenceville, Georgia. What is his doctorate in? More on that later. He runs World Sambo Jiu-Jitsu in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and by the way, 1956 Duluth Highway, Suite 112, Building B, 770-630-0082. But anyway, let's check out the website. At World Sambo Jiu-Jitsu, you can learn techniques other schools don't know or won't teach. We teach you to win, period. No points or decisions. We believe in winning only by submission or KO. Learn from 27-time world champion cage fighter and inductee of the Black Belt Martial Arts Hall of Fame, Dr. Mark Bailey. Not pictured is the Good Doctor, who despite holding more world championships than Ric Flair, has the physique of an Applebee's manager. But come on now, good physiques don't necessarily make a good fighter, and some great fighters have notably doughy physiques. I'm sure Bailey has some legitimate credentials. Indeed he does, according to his MySpace page, which I can't view because I don't have a connection with him. Mark has 550 victories in grappling competition, but more impressive than that is what he details in his 72-page biography, My Life's Fight, which I have not read because I'm not paying $20 for this garbage. But here's a brief summary. Dr. Bailey, born in 1961, overcame a childhood of abuse and deprivation, which presumably includes being forced to wear a bowl haircut. He left home at the age of 16 to begin his fighting career. He trained in the martial art of Shuto, going to Japan at the age of 19, and he fought in underground matches until his mid-20s when he was arrested for drug dealing, which he was doing to supplement his income. After a prison stay, he was stripped of his titles, and he had to claw his way back up the ranks, eventually winning 27 world titles with the World Fighting Championship. In the midst of all this underground kickboxing and Yakuza drug smuggling, he also had time to become a Navy SEAL and obtain his doctorate. Doctorates in martial arts philosophy and martial arts science, and now he resides in Georgia, passing on his martial knowledge, the old lion watching over his pride. The problem is this story is a bunch of bullshit. Let's go down the list of how. Mark Bailey has court records showing that he was involved in some criminal nonsense at the age of 19 in Gwinnett County, Georgia. The same time he was supposedly studying the art of Shuto in the land of the rising sun. Shuto, by the way, is not a martial art at all. It is a fighting league and competition. The first mixed martial arts company in Japan, as a matter of fact. But surely Mark could have been training for this at the age of 19, training for the competitions, right? Shuto was founded in 1985. So there's no way that Mark Bailey, 19 years old in 1980, could have been training for a company that didn't exist for another 5 years. To go into his military credentials, nobody named Mark Bailey has ever been a Navy SEAL. In fact, Mark Bailey has no military experience whatsoever. The only organization to call itself the World Fighting Championship had its first event in 2007. So either Mark Bailey was fighting professionally at the age of 46, or he's lying. And by the way, there is no Black Belt Hall of Fame. Now, there are halls of fame for various martial arts styles, martial arts organizations, going by country, and guess what? None of those have Mark Bailey in them. So as far as I can tell, Mark Bailey is just a pudgy middle-aged man with a bad haircut and delusions of grandeur. But don't take my word for it, let's listen to this guy on Reddit. When I first wanted to start training, I looked up schools in my area, the closest of which was run by this mongoloid, so I showed up for class. At first, I obviously knew nothing about grappling, so I had no idea the quality of his technique. The other students seemed somewhat spazzy, but okay. I was there for about 2 months, during which time Mark would spin ever more bizarre stories about himself, up to and including bragging about how he paralyzed somebody in an MMA match in Russia or Japan. I don't remember anymore. After that, I looked up all the stuff about him online, and I left the school. A year or so later, I moved to the other side of town, and I'm about 10 minutes away from a good school I attend. I don't know whatever happened to Mark Bailey. I'm sure he's still floating around somewhere like a turd in a punch bowl. But believe it or not, Mark Bailey has an actual fight on his record. Even more incredulously, he won it. So that's it. That's all settled. He's a legitimate fighter, right? Let's watch the fight. From 2008's Dixie Throwdown 4 in Irondale, Alabama. I can't believe they had 3 previous ones of these. Dixie Throwdown is presumably some sort of Bush League outfit I've never heard of. Here's the fight. Mark Bailey versus Dave LaFlame. Dixie Throwdown 4 was organized by Skip Hall, whose website... Yeah. Skip Hall himself is a somewhat interesting character. He holds the claim to be the oldest debuting MMA fighter ever at the age of 57. And he actually compiled some wins. Now granted, his final record was 3-5, but still this guy somehow managed to get a legitimate fight against Dan goddamn Severn. Yes, as in 2-time UFC champion, NWA champion, UFC Hall of Famer Dan Severn. No, he did not win that fight. In fact, according to SureDog, Hall was choked out at 0 minutes and 0 seconds in the first round, which is either a mathematical impossibility or Hall is that bad of a fighter. But I digress. Let's watch Bailey versus LaFlame. Well, the massive amounts of empty seats are not a good sign, nor are the doughy dad bods on display. Mr. Bailey, who remember trained in Shuto for half a decade, shows very little striking ability whatsoever. But he does put underhooks in during a grapple, so I guess I'll throw him a bone and say he's attended at least 1 martial arts class in his life. He then puts on a very tepid rear naked choke, and that's the game. Some think this fight was fixed. I don't necessarily think so. I don't think it's hard to believe Mark found some scrub working at the Jiffy Lube or whatever to get in the ring with him for a few bucks. So that's Mark Bailey. Better than most of the hacks I review. He put his money where his mouth is, and he fought. Now granted, he fought a guy who completely sucked, but in my line of work, you take what you can get. But like the guy on Reddit said, there are much better masters you can train under. And speaking of, I'm Larson Halleck. Keep on training. Here's a word from our sponsor. Hello, my friend. Are you frustrated with the machinations of Western women? It's not your fault, it's theirs. So what can be done? Try some Eastern European women, straight from the FSU to you, ready to be swept off their dainty little feet. I mean, what else is she gonna do? Go out with some guy wearing a tracksuit? If you're interested, go to simplydating.com using the affiliate link provided in the video description. Sign up today, and remember, the more services you purchase, the closer you'll be to finding her. Go forth and find your little Diev.